You're paying 1% a year on your investments, and it feels like nothing, a rounding error. But that tiny number is quietly eating close to a third of everything you were going to retire with, and you will never once see the bill. Here is what that small number actually does. Picture two investors, side by side. Same salary, same contributions, the same funds, the same market, for 30 years. The only difference between them is that one pays 1% more in fees each year. Decades later, that one ends up with roughly a third less money. Not because she earned less. Not because she picked worse. Purely because of what she paid. The fee did all of it, silently. And here is the part that should make you sit up, because it is the whole reason this is so dangerous. If a calm, math-backed take on money, the kind that shows you the arithmetic instead of selling you a fund, is what you're here for, subscribe. If not, no hard feelings, stay right here, because this next part is the whole point. This is the fee tax, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That 1% isn't really a fee. It's a tax on your future. And unlike most taxes, you volunteered for this one, and you can stop paying it anytime you choose. Here's what is actually happening to that 1%. It does not get charged once. It is charged every single year on a balance that is supposed to be growing. So the cost grows right alongside the wealth it is skimming. The very same compounding that is meant to work for you is quietly working against you, on the other side of the ledger. And there is one number sitting on your statement that decides whether you keep most of your gains or hand a third of them away. And almost no one has ever looked at it. Hold on to that. The number is smaller than you would ever fear, and that is exactly why it is so dangerous. So here is the mechanism, as plainly as I can put it. A fee compounds against you exactly the way returns are supposed to compound for you. That means a 1% fee does not cost you 1%. Over a few decades, it quietly takes close to a third of the wealth you would otherwise have had. 2% takes roughly half. Sit with that. The fee is tiny. What the fee compounds into is enormous. The bigger your balance grows, the bigger the bite, every single year, for the rest of your investing life. And that is the entire rule. The cost is the one big thing about investing you actually control. So the single highest return move most people never make is simply paying less. Not picking winners. Not timing the market. Not chasing the next hot thing. Just paying less and keeping more of your own return. Now, if the cost is that important, why does almost no one notice it? Because the fee is invisible by design. You never write a check for it. You never get a bill. There is no moment where it stings, no transaction you have to approve. It is shaved off quietly from inside the fund, a sliver taken off the price every single day, before the money ever looks like yours. By the time you glance at your balance, it is already gone, and it never had your name on it. And then there is the way our minds handle a percentage. 1% of your account just sounds like nothing. The brain hears a small number sitting next to a big balance and rounds it straight down to zero. But that is the wrong comparison. The right way to measure the fee is not against this year's balance. It is against the entire lifetime of compounding you just signed away. Reframe that 1% into real dollars, stretched over 30 or 40 years, and it stops feeling small very fast. It starts to feel like a missing wing of the house you were going to retire into. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is not a story about villains. The fund company is not robbing you. Fees pay for real things, and plenty of them are perfectly fair. The point is gentler than outrage, and far more useful. The size of the fee is a choice. And almost no one realizes they are even making it. Not noticing is completely human. The trap is choosing, year after year, to keep not noticing. Once you have looked, you can never be quietly overcharged in the same way again. This is where Morgan Housel, in The Psychology of Money, offers the reframe that makes the whole thing click. Of everything in investing, he points out, the cost is one of the very few things that is actually within your control. You cannot control the market. You cannot control your returns. You cannot control when the next crash arrives or how long it lasts. But you can decide, today, exactly what you are willing to pay to be in the game. So pour your energy into the one lever that genuinely moves, and that you actually hold in your hand. You can't make the market pay you more. You can absolutely stop overpaying to be there. So let me give you that number now, the one I asked you to hold. Morningstar runs a study on fund costs every year, and in its 2024 fee study, two findings stand out. First, the average fund fee has quietly fallen to about 1/3%, less than half what investors were paying 2 decades ago. The cost of investing well has never been lower. And second, this is the one that matters most. Across all the things researchers have tested, a fund's expense ratio, its cost, is the single most reliable predictor of how it will perform in the future. Not its past returns, not its star rating, not the manager's reputation, its cost. The less you pay, the more you tend to keep. That is the number from your statement, finally named. It is called the expense ratio. It is smaller than you feared, and it is the closest thing investing has to a sure thing. This is exactly what John Bogle, the man who built the first index fund for ordinary people, spent his entire life trying to tell us. The magic of compounding returns, he wrote, is overwhelmed by the tyranny of compounding costs. Low cost is not a nice to have. It is the most dependable edge an ordinary investor will ever get, and it is sitting one click away on a statement you have probably never opened. So here is the one move, and it is so simple it almost sounds too small to matter. Today, before you do anything else with your money, find the expense ratio on every fund and every account you own. That is it. That is the whole assignment. Most people have genuinely never once looked. The number is not hidden. It is on the funds page. It is on your statement. It is one search away with the fund's name and the words expense ratio. Write each one down on a single piece of paper. Seeing the numbers side by side is the entire move, because you cannot fix a cost you have never seen. Let me make it concrete with one person. Picture someone who has been investing for years, faithfully, every payday, in a fund she was handed and never questioned. She always assumed the fee was just normal, just the cost of doing this. One afternoon she finally looks. She finds the expense ratio, and it is higher than she ever imagined, and right next to it sits a nearly identical fund, doing the very same job for a fraction of the cost. She does not panic. She does not overhaul everything overnight. She just writes both numbers down, and for the first time she can see the choice she has been making without knowing it. That is the moment the tax becomes visible. And here is the principle underneath it, and it is a principle, not a stock tip. When two funds do the same job, the cheaper one usually wins, for the simple reason that the one thing it reliably does is let you keep more of your own money. I am not telling you to buy or sell anything in particular. I am telling you to look, to know your number, and to favor low cost wherever you can. So here is the whole of it. A 1% fee is not small. Because it compounds against you for your entire investing life, it quietly takes close to 1/3 of the wealth you were going to have, and 2% takes roughly half. The fee is tiny. What it compounds into is everything. And the cost is the one big thing about investing you actually control. You can't make the market pay you more, but you can stop overpaying to be there. So do one thing today. Find the expense ratio on every fund and account you own, and write the numbers down. Most people have never once looked, and you cannot keep what you have never seen. That single act of looking is worth more than any hot tip you'll ever hear. If a calm, math-backed take on money is what you come here for, subscribe, and keep one of these close. Calm investors. Build wealth with patience, not panic.